You're at the finish line. You are ready to get those keys and move into your dream home. I'm going to tell you some of the things that you need to think about, do, and put on your schedule as you finish and slide into home on your new house. So exciting. And I'm happy for you. Here you are. This is the point where I can tell you you can fall in love. Before a client writes an offer and they go visit a property, I say, no, you cannot fall in love until you are in contract. So here you are. So what's one of the first things you need to think about is utilities. And in Santa Cruz County, it's super important because we have a lot of different utility providers. The garbage is different from one area to the other. We really only have two. We have the city of Santa Cruz, and then we have green waste for the county, but they're different, so it depends on where you are. The water companies are different. We have tons of those, are different for every area. And then the sewer is usually tied to one of those utilities, but still you need to get prepared for that. The sellers always ask me when I have a buyer or their agent asks me, do your buyers have their utilities secured because we're going to turn them off at such and such date? So make sure you get that in line. And then if you remember, I talked about going on vacation in the last video. Utilities is one of those things that you want to have tied up before you go, or if it's during your absence, then make sure you reach out to me. I give you the information like the email address or even the phone number if possible, so you can still change those utilities. So make sure that you have that sewed up because it does cause some anxiety for the selling side when it gets close to the end, because nobody wants anybody to be without water or power after you move into your castle. Number two, get the last minute questions answered while you have everyone's attention. Hey, if you don't pay attention to anything else in this video, this is the point. This is the one that you really need to know. That when you have those little questions, they might even seem stupid. Like, I can't figure out where the light switch is to this weird light, or I noticed that the closet door kind of gets wonky. Is there a trick to that? Is there a garage door key? You know, all the little stuff that wasn't important to negotiate, but they're important when you move in. And the difference between later and right at this moment when you're getting ready to close is that you have the seller's attention. You have the seller's agent and you have the seller. And you have mine. I mean, you have everybody at your disposal to get these questions answered. So ask them at this time. And you will do it after you do or during the final walkthrough, which is the next step, which is kind of like 2A or 2B to the second step, that you want to go on a walkthrough. It's usually about 5 days before the close of escrow, where you go and you verify that the property is in the condition or what you expected when you wrote your offer and negotiated and got into contract. You want to make sure that, everything's so good. Years ago, I had a seller. I don't know what they were doing because it was a very interesting space they did this in, but they broke a window. And the buyer did the walkthrough and said, hey, they broke a window, and the sellers actually contracted to have that window fixed and replaced. And I'm not sure if it was done before they closed escrow, but I do know that it got done for them. My sellers wouldn't have just said, hey, take this property, too bad we broke a window. But still, it was that thing that was figured out on the walkthrough. And then I had another buyer who actually, the window was broken, and at the walkthrough, we discovered that it wasn't fixed. And at that point, we asked for the credit for the work. So we did finish up some details on that walkthrough. But it's also kind of a fun time because usually that's the time you can really start imagining yourself there. And sometimes the seller has already moved out and you can actually see the space. Walkthroughs are usually very, very fun because that's just kind of when you're just so close, and then sometimes the seller's there and you can ask those questions there. So that's the time when you actually really get to fall in love per se, and really start thinking about being in that new home. Number 3, and my last step here, local resources. So while you're kind of getting ready to close and get keys, start looking into local resources, which would be like parks and recreation, which I always recommend for people moving here with children. It gives your kids a chance to make some friends of their own age with their own interests, like a painting class or a swimming class or, any summertime activity. And they get a chance to meet kids, at least, not maybe best friends, but they meet people. And then when they go to school, it's not such a big, scary place where they don't know anybody. I always recommend that. The other thing I recommend is going to farmers markets. I'm not a big farmers market person, and if you've watched any of my videos, you'll know this. But I think when you're moving into town, it's a great resource. You kind of learn about the local food vendors, but also the city and the county often have a booth there, or there's some group there, and you can learn a little bit more about the area. So I always think that is a really good thing to do. But the city of Santa Cruz usually has a table there, and it's something that they're trying to promote, like recycling or certain events that are coming up. So I recommend popping in there. They're fun. You'll grab a few things that you need. And then now you're on to closing. You've kind of gotten all these other details closed up. You will spend some time, maybe a lot of time, probably about an hour, signing all your paperwork and getting ready. And then really it's your lender who finishes up, or you wire in the funds, and the big day happens. You get keys. So I want to say congratulations. You went through a whole home buying journey with me on this series. And then I have a bonus for you. I'm going to put up here. It's how to talk like a local. It's a pretty fun little video. So if you already know the difference between Soquel and Soquel and Brenta Forte and Brenta Forte, you may not want to watch it, but there's some other little tips there to help you become a local faster. So if you like these videos, let me know. Hey, schedule a call down below, and let's get you in the process of what you're ever trying to do, buy or sell. I have a Calendly link there, and we can put together a strategy for you so you're successful in Santa Cruz County. All right, talk to you soon. Thanks. Bye.